All right, let's just get right into it. If you think philosophy is all about dusty old books and stuffy lecture halls, well, you're going to want to stick around because we're not talking about that today. We're talking about a war, a secret, desperate, centuries-long war, fought right on the edge of meaning itself. This is a high-stakes drama against an enemy that actually lives inside every single one of us. Welcome to Doctorates of the Absurd, your provider of belief on demand. And today we are cracking open the secret briefing file on modern philosophy's great unfinished crusade. So every good war story needs an enemy, right? But the thing is, in this story, our enemy isn't some person or an army. No, it's a condition. It's a feeling. It's that deep, foundational terror of being totally, completely, and utterly alone. And it has a name. We call it dereliction. And just look at this definition. This is key. We're not just talking about feeling kind of sad or, lonely. No, dereliction is the metaphysical bedrock underneath all of those feelings. It's that moment you look up at the night sky and it hits you. There's no plan. There's no cosmic parent watching over you. There's no script written for your life. You are, for all intents and purposes, a consciousness just cast adrift. And this feeling, this realization, this was the problem. The central crisis that modern philosophy was born to fight. Now, an enemy like dereliction, it doesn't just attack from one direction. You gotta think of it like some kind of cosmic monster, right? Reaching out from the abyss. So if we're gonna understand this war, first we need to do some reconnaissance. We need to understand the anatomy of the beast itself. Its four primary weapons. Its tentacles. Okay, let's break these down. First up, we've got what you could call the mind's prison. This is that creeping, horrifying fear. What if my senses are lying to me? What if I'm totally cut off from what's real? Then there's the cosmic orphan. Man, this one's a gut punch. It's that cold, hard realization that we are accidents. The universe has no plan for us. We just happened. Number 3 is the moral void. The dread that hits when you think, wait, if there's no divine rulebook, are all our morals just made up? Just stories we tell ourselves? And finally, there's radical freedom. And this one sounds good, but it's terrifying. It's the crushing burden of being condemned to be free. You have no choice but to invent your own purpose from scratch. So you're facing this four-pronged attack. What do? Do you just roll over and surrender? No. Humanity launched a counteroffensive. And really, you can read the entire history of modern philosophy as a series of brilliant, strategic military campaigns, all designed for one purpose, to fight back against the void. All right, so this offensive came in 3 major waves. The first strategic strike, philosophers tried to build an unshakable fortress right inside the human mind. When that didn't fully work, strike 2 was to try and create a new secular god, something called progress. And then finally, the third, and maybe the most daring move of all, they decided to stop running from the abyss and just turn and face it, to try and embrace it. So strike 1, this all kicks off with René Descartes, and this guy's move was radical. He basically said, okay, I'm going to doubt literally everything, my senses, the world around me, maybe even God. He throws it all out, but then he realizes there's one thing he can't doubt, the very fact that he's doubting. I think, therefore I am. Cogito ergo sum. And boom, that was the first brick, the cornerstone for a whole new fortress of certainty. The thinking self, that became the one single safe point in a universe of doubt. It was our beachhead. Okay, so strike 2 was a totally different strategy. The Enlightenment thinkers looked around and said, okay, the old divine plan is gone. We need a new one. So they made a huge gamble. They basically swapped out God for human reason. They replaced the promise of getting to heaven in the next life with the promise of making a heaven right here on earth. The new story was that history wasn't random. It was a grand story of inevitable progress. And that gave us a new purpose, a new reason to fight off that cosmic orphan feeling. And then came the third strike. And this is where things get really wild. You have the existentialists, guys like Jean-Paul Sartre, and they look straight into the void, and they didn't even flinch. Their battle cry was, existence precedes essence. What does that even mean? Well, it means you're not born with a purpose. You're not born a hero or a villain or anything. You're just born, a total blank slate. Your essence, who you really are, is something you create entirely through the choices you make. The huge takeaway here is that meaning isn't something you go out and find. It's something you build, choice by choice, day by day. So for centuries, these were the great campaigns. They were heroic. They were brilliant. And yet, here's the turn. They all kind of failed.
The war just reached a stalemate. Despite all our best efforts, all these intellectual fortresses we built, they crumbled. The tentacles of the abyss are still right there. So the big question is, why? What went wrong?
All right, let's look at the after-action report. First off, reason. The very tool we use to build our defenses, well, it turned on us. It started deconstructing its own foundations, showing us how our own minds are full of biases and weird unconscious drives. Then there was progress. That beautiful myth of inevitable human improvement, it died a horrible death in the trenches of World War I and the gas chambers of the Holocaust. And that radical freedom the existentialists talked about? For most people, the demand to create your own meaning from scratch, it wasn't liberating. It was just paralyzing. And to top it all off, science, which we thought was our ally, just kept reinforcing the idea of a cold, random, meaningless universe.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds incredibly bleak. A failed war, a stalemate, an enemy you can't possibly beat. But this is where the story takes a sharp turn. Because it's right here, in the ruins of this grand campaign, that we discover a new kind of wisdom, a truly modern wisdom. It's all about finding dignity in a battle that you absolutely know you cannot win.
So that brings us to the ultimate question, doesn't it? Was it all for nothing? I mean, all that thinking, all that struggle over hundreds of years, did any of it actually matter? And the answer is no, it wasn't for nothing. But here's the twist. The goal was wrong from the start. See, philosophy failed to get rid of dereliction because it's not a disease you can cure. It's just the truth. It's the actual human condition. So the real victory here wasn't finding a cure. It was developing a vaccination. These ideas gave us the tools and the courage to live with that truth, to do what Nietzsche talked about, to build our little huts on the slope of a volcano, knowing full well the whole thing could blow at any second. And this, right here, this is the whole thing. This is the payoff. The war is not over because it cannot be won. The fighting of it, the relentless, sharp, merciless interrogation of our own abandonment is the modern meaning of wisdom. Think about that. The war can't be won, but the act of fighting it, that's everything. That constant struggle, that unflinching look at our own cosmic loneliness, that is what wisdom looks like now. Our dignity doesn't come from winning. It comes from the courage and the honesty of the fight itself. Look, this wasn't just their war. It's our inheritance. It's up to us now to live consciously right in the middle of that tension, to keep building our own fragile meanings, knowing full well they have no ultimate foundation. The campaign is still going, and now your watch begins.